Hello, my name is Vanessa Yovet, also known as the Lone Star Jayhawk. I am one of the plaintiffs on the Mona Mejia Victor Mejia court filing. I'm making this video to tell my side of the story. Also, um, there's some there's some allegations that I only knew her through the internet, and that's not the truth. Um, so I and also I just I want to make it aware of aside from the financial aspect of the whole situation, there was a lot of mental manipulation involved with the whole scandal, which I'm sure is, I'm not the only one that suffered the mental manipulation. I'm sure other people did too. And I'm making this video also so people know that they're not alone. I do want to preface this by saying that I am a person that was paid back. My understanding is I'm the only person who was paid back. If that's not true, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to spread misinformation. But here's my story. So I met Mona in 2020 at a Posh Party Live here in Houston. She just really resonated with me. I'm a mother, a wife, a reseller, Latina in the Houston community. So I thought, well, this is somebody I can, we can create a reseller. Um, Not necessarily a friendship, but like, because people that have met me in the reseller community know, like, it's not that I'm flaky, but I kind of just, I keep to myself. Like, I'll go to things, but at the same time, I can't really commit to being like social. So, I just knew like I would be able to, it would be somebody in my community. So I introduced myself, and then shortly after that, in February of 2020, I attended a reseller meetup that took place at a ThreadUp outlet that was located in Pasadena, Texas, which is like a neighboring city of Houston or a suburb of Houston. And then, so that's the second time I've seen her. Shortly after that, after two times of seeing her, she messages me. Well, we had still been communicating via Instagram, like we just messages. We kept up communication that way. But she messaged me and was told me, "Hey, I know somebody that you know on Facebook." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I know them." And she indicated she knew someone that they're also also know, and I guess there was some type of relationship there. I'm only bringing this part up because two things. It was very weird that she was able to connect us. One, because I'm private on Facebook. Also, I don't think our friendship on Instagram was through my name. It was through my business name, which is the Lone Star Jayhawk. And the person that she knew the other person from, their name is not their legal name on Facebook. So I don't know how she was able to connect us, but she did. And I was like, yeah, she said, oh, the other reason why I'm bringing this up is because apparently there was some type of scandal tied to her and the other person. She was alleging she was alleging something to keep that person tied in her life. I'm not going to go into details of what that was. I think that's not my story to tell. Also, there's other people in that person's life that are probably don't know about this, and that's not my story to tell. But it's just to to show that her scheming and scamming goes back to that far long. It was like 20 years ago. She later told me that happened 20 years ago. I didn't even look into it after she told me that she knew him, so I just left it alone. I didn't care to know because if it's not of any benefit to me or information that I can grow from, I don't feel it necessary to find out more. Um, so that happened then, and then at the beginning of 2021, there was some type of health scare in her family with her husband. And I reached out to her and told her, like, how are they doing, being a concerned person. And she stated that her husband had stage 4 prostate cancer. And I, at the time, had somebody in my life that was going through that. And, I sympathized with her. And she said that they had to remove all his glands and things like that. And I don't know what happened after that. I don't know if that was true. I really hope that these things were not made up, because that's very unfortunate that you have to grab onto a medical condition and create a lie. That's not okay. Also, if it was true, that's sad. That all these medical conditions are coming up. And then late 2022, she stated on one of her IGs that she was on one of her stories that she was going to be on featured on Good Morning America. And I got really excited because, it's somebody in the Houston area. They really grew in their business, and allegedly. And, she was getting national recognition. I thought that was awesome. So the holidays came shortly after that, and I kind of stayed off social media. I get real busy with my kids and just life in general. That's another reason why I don't really interact on social media, just because I prioritize my family, and then the business comes second. So social media kind of goes by the wayside, which that's just me. I don't expect everybody to be like that. Excuse me. Then in 2023, at the beginning, she stated that she had some really good news, and that she was going to be the primary person or the primary family on a TLC show, with revolving around Latino resellers. And then shortly after that, I think around that time, shortly before that, I believe we became friends on Facebook, and she invited me to her launch party that was going to take place in May. I attended the launch party, so all this became very real to me. Like, I really believed that this show was going to happen, because at the party that was hosted at the Quadra Home, had camographers, open bar, food, DJ, really nice picture setup. It was very beautifully decorated. It really seemed like a show was happening, and people were videoing the whole, like, professional videographers were videoing. They were also taking that opportunity to celebrate her son's graduation, her youngest son. I believe he was already an adult by that time. Her other two children are adults. So just want to make that clear. And then we paid into that graduation collection box. But anyway, then I started seeing in June she would post advertisements selling her reseller services, like her reseller course, her vendor days. And she had posted about those vendor days sometime in early 2023. It looked like a lot of fun. I was like, oh man, I wish I would have got involved in that. But looking at it now, I'm like, I'm so glad I didn't, because I would have been even more in like in her grasp or whatever. I don't know how to say it. And then not only the reseller courses or the vendor days, she offered joining people's lives, like to kind of bring like more of an audience, which, those are all legitimate things that you could do. I don't know how much she was charging for that. I do know that she was charging $300 for the vendor day reseller course component, and she was requesting $150 $150 deposit, and that was going to take place in August. She was also offering services to sell other resellers' goods. on her lives. I don't know if people bought into that. The only reason I'm bringing all of this portion up is because if you are victims of that swindle or that alleged scam and you did not receive the services you paid for, you can also bring up your complaint with the Houston Police Department. The detective that I was working with was Detective Awesome, AWASOM. Why is that so hard for me to say? Um, but yeah, he's very good detective. He's the one I was speaking to. I got calls late last year, 2023, in regard to all this, but we're getting there. And then in July of 2023, I started seeing her posts reaching out for what was she reaching out? Oh, for Latino sellers in the Houston area to be part of the show. And I thought, oh, here's your shot, Vanessa. Let's get it. Um, so of course I'm like, hey, I'm a reseller. I'm Latina. I'm in your community. Let's do it. And she kind of hesitated to reach out to me. She finally reached out to me, and then she told me during our because she said she insisted we had to have a FaceTime, which I don't care. Like, we can have a FaceTime. Like, I'm not trying to hide anything. Um, so we had a FaceTime, and she brought up the person from her past again, which at this point I'm like, dang, you're really hung up on this person, and I'm sure you're not even relevant in their life at this point. Like, I don't know. I don't talk to that person, especially about relationships that they've had. Um, so, but because by the time I lived in Houston, this person, she wouldn't have been in their life because I've only lived in Houston since 2008. What is that? 16 years, 15 years, something like that. So, I, you know, I don't think they even thought about her. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But then she told me during that FaceTime call that they were asking for $500 per family, and that would need to be paid, I believe, the following Monday, because it was for attorney fees, and the attorneys were going to draw up paperwork and contracts and things like that. And I thought, okay, that sounds legit. $500 sounds legit, for paperwork. And then she ends up telling me that we were not selected. So, okay, heartbreak after like going back and forth whether or not, like, that was just kind of like she very manipulative type situation. And then at the end of July, she says, good news, like, you guys were selected, they reconsidered you, this, that, and the third. But at this point, she was asking for $500 per adult. So my husband and I, and it had to be the family. It couldn't be just like me, because it was a family show, according to her. Again, I would just want to preface this. I don't talk like this. I'm talking like this right now because my family's asleep, and this is my third attempt at making this video. So, I'm trying to be quiet. So I told her, I said, well, I don't have that kind of money. And I said, you can't, pay it. And then whenever we get our TLC money, I'll pay you back. And she's like, it don't work like that. She kind of got snappy with me and just real ugly and was like, I don't see that you're being appreciative. I get another bite from you, this and that, just kind of creating like this standoffish kind of way, like, a sense of urgency, because if I wanted to do it, I had to tell her that day, this and that. And I was just like, oh my God, like, calm down. Um, oh, and I had also asked her if who I made the cashier's check to, and she was like, who makes cashier's checks? And I was like, well, attorneys certainly are going to ask for a cashier's check. I think that creates a paper trail. Why wouldn't an attorney be okay with the cashier's check? And she's like, no, you have to send it to me, this and that. And long story short, I gave it, and I didn't listen to my intuition, which my intuition was kind of just telling me, even since the party that something was off, because when she came up to me to say hello, like she seemed kind of like I don't know how to say it. Like I could just feel the energy. But then I also just blew it off as nerves. It's a very important night. Their TLC is here. I was thinking the whole time it was TLC, and it was like a private videographers. But anyway, um, so I sent her the money, and she told me that within 2 weeks I would receive something from TLC, an email. No, I would receive word from TLC. So I'm over here thinking it's either going to be a letter or an email. So I'm looking out for letters and I'm looking out for emails. And then during that time, she goes to Dallas. And she's also making like her live videos and stuff like that. And in one of her lives, she states that, basically she's comparing her husband to the other men that are there who are her family, because she said it was a family thing. And she's also like basically bashing that the other men are not as good as her husband, which that's great. I'm not saying like not to praise your husband. The issue is I'm about to be on a show with you and you're comparing your husband to other husbands. While I'm very secure in my marriage, I don't want to feel that way. Like I don't want to feel like every time we're recording you're gonna be comparing my husband to yours, because I don't want you looking at my husband like that. Like I don't think that's okay. Like you should be good and not even trying to look like that. So she was like starting to spin a narrative basically. And then she was also in those lives talking about how somebody that was part of the show was very like using her, and she felt like they were using her and their energy has changed, this and that. And I'm thinking, who is she talking about? Like, because at this point I already knew the cuadras. So like, is she talking about them? And then the next thing you know, like, oh, I'm sorry, let me just back up real quick. So she comes back from her trip to Dallas, and by this point it's been 2 weeks. So I see she's back and it's 2 weeks in a day. So I reach out to her and I say, hey, I didn't hear from TLC. And she sends me a message, all caps, and we all know that means you're screaming. So she's like, I told you like to be patient, they're gonna message you, this and that. And I'm like, yes, I understand, it's been 2 weeks in a day. So I feel like if you're a professional and you give a timeline, that's when they're gonna complete that timeline, or at least reach out and let you know, hey, it's taking longer. So especially when there's money involved. So anyways, we all know now it's a lie, but allegedly. But lo and behold, I end up getting a message from TLC stating that they would like to invite, that Mona would like to invite us to be part of her show for this huge opportunity. And it spelled out the compensation for the show and all these things. Great. So I'm having lunch with my kids. So I just write back real quick, yes. And then I realized, oh girl, you just like sent a message that should have been professional, like very unprofessional. You need to send a professional message. So I turn around and I write a very nice, message like, oh yes, thank you for the opportunity. Yes, my family and I would like to accept the offer. Thank you for your consideration. Vanessa. And then, excuse me. And then so I let her know, hey, I received a message from TLC. Excuse me, thank you so much for the opportunity. And then she's like, oh yeah, no problem, this and that. And then she's like, hey, Daria told me, so the messages were supposedly coming from Daria at TLC, who we now know is somebody from Poshmark who has no dealings with this. So that person was brought into this, and I don't even know if they know. They might know now. And then So she said that supposedly this person told her that I messaged twice, and I'm thinking, is she the one messaging? Like, I don't think a company would care if I messaged 10,000 times. Of course, and that's a lot, but something as simple as two messages. Come on, like they're more professional than that. I'm sure they'll see that I said yes, and then I responded with a longer message. I'm sure they'll see the point, you know. But she's like, oh, you got to be careful because, they're being very selective of who they're choosing, like spinning this whole like mental manipulation type situation. So that way I didn't ask any questions because at this point I had asked a lot of questions. And so she was like, and they don't like a lot of questions being asked, because they already told me to cut somebody out of the show, this and that. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is serious. So, anyways, in between that that time and the next email, her husband's birthday comes up, and she sends out a message via an invitation via Facebook, and I receive it, and I responded going, not thinking about that we had other things going on. I'm just like, oh, my co-star, we got to go support. And then she messages me and says, hey, on Instagram, hey, I saw that you responded to my husband's birthday invite. Unfortunately, we had to cancel because he found out, and he just wants to do something with the kids. And I'm like, oh yeah. I messaged her the next day. I said, oh, no worries. I found out that we had other engagements anyway, so we're gonna have to decline the invitation, but thank you anyway. Just for her to turn around and post on the Facebook invite, not even take me off, and say, I need a head count of who's coming. Okay, whatever. I guess now the party's back on because I'm not going. No, I don't care. And so the cuadras are at the party. So I'm like, okay, well, it's not the cuadras that she's talking about, right? Like, who's this other family or these other people that she's spinning this narrative about, that she's like, feels like they're being unappreciative. I think she was just putting that in all of our heads to not like, to make sure she kept us on our toes, basically. So she was being very manipulative. Also, so another thing that I think hook, line, and sinkered people was this whole article that came out about her where she made all this money that we later learned was a scam. So I'll get back to that part. But so the second email comes, and they spell out in that email that, oh, I'm sorry, in between the time she comes back from Dallas and Victor's birthday, she's posting all these thank yous to people that are sending her like gift baskets, nothing bundt cakes, crave cupcakes, different thank yous, like edible arrangements, and what's the other one? The cookies, crumble. So she's posting all these videos of people, thanking them, and that, and I'm hearting them, and she's responding, oh yes, these are all the people that are going to be on my show, this, that, and the third. Meanwhile, I haven't even been told, like, yes, it's for sure, right? So I'm like, oh my God, like now I know she was manipulating me. She was just like, yeah, these are strong people in our community. They're strong Latinos and Latinas and this and that. And I'm going to have the best cast, this and that. And I'm thinking, and I'm still not even told. And I think she was doing that on purpose, but whatever. You got your kicks, but you ain't getting them for long. Like that came back. And then what you put out in the universe will come back to you. People don't have to do anything. It comes back. And then and then I get the email message after Victor's birthday that says, basically that we were accepted, and it spelled out the scheduling and stuff like that. And then it also said to make sure we thanked Mona for this this huge opportunity. And then it clicks. That's why everybody was sending her stuff. So of course I'm like, well, I guess I can send something, I mean, I can afford a little cookies or whatever. So I'm telling her, hey, can I have your address? Mind you, I did have her address. I just didn't want to look for it. Because I was like kind of feeling sour about the whole like mental manipulation that I was feeling, but I was also brushing it off like, oh no, you need to be appreciative. You need to be appreciative, um, going against my better judgment. And then I'm asking her for her address because I want to thank her and this and that. And she keeps on brushing it off. Well, September 5th, the freaking ball drops and she makes the video that says that she was scammed allegedly. And my whole thing is if you have an attorney that you're working with, your attorney is not going to advise you to do that. And if they advise you to do that, they're sitting right next to you, making sure that you don't say something out of line because they are your legal representation. The way she went about telling the community that she was scammed was not something an attorney would advise. Also, she did not reach out via video like she had said that she likes to see people face to face to get their vibe. She didn't reach out to me to tell me that the scam had happened. I later found an email from her that said that the TLC show wasn't going to happen and this and that, and she's sorry. In the video, she indicated she was going to pay people back, and I think a lot of people took that as she was the victim in this, and because a lot of us didn't speak out at the time, people ran with that narrative, and I'm sorry if I'm one of the people. I'm sorry that because I'm one of the people that was victimized in this situation, and I didn't speak out. I didn't speak out, one, because I was hurt, and I know better than to speak on something when I'm hurt, because hurt people will hurt, and that's not me. And also because I was in the works of getting my money back from her. Her daughter did involve herself in that, and she got me paid back through money, I guess, from live sales. But I think that's very fortunate that she implicated her daughter in that part because that seems like that would hold some legal repercussions as well. But you know, I hope to God that that doesn't happen and that her children really are not involved in it, because that's very unfortunate that parents would involve their adult children in things that they could legally suffer legal repercussions from. So when I started to put the pieces together, I reached out to Lorette, the Quadra family, and they basically, we all kind of united in support, and they told me that, it was potentially a swindle or a scam, a con, and that they were conned out of a lot more than the $1,000. And they rallied together, and this is why where we are now, which is great. I'm very thankful for that. Even though I was paid back, I do want to make that very clear. I was paid back, but nobody's gonna pay me back for the mental manipulation and the time I wasted on this. So este she definitely did play us like puppets, or at least me. I can't speak for everybody else. Actually, the only people I know in all this is the Cuadras. So after that, I started doing my own investigating. Like I said, I had her address because I did do a porch pickup on some purchases that I made last year. And I looked up the address, and I wanted to see if the information that she was putting out there in the article was true, that they had paid off their home, and that home is not owned by them. We already know that. We saw that in Casey's video. I'm sorry, the Rockstar Flipper. I don't know if I don't know if, I'm sorry if you don't use Casey as your name. I just remember from back when you first started, and that's the name you used, and I apologize if I'm using your first name. So that happened, and then I started thinking, well, I've never seen her post graduation videos of her kids in college, because the article also said that that she had paid for 2 college tuitions, and I'm like, I never saw her post. That seems like something you would post about. Like, she's very boastful. So why wouldn't she post about that? I mean, she said she put them through college. So, like, when somebody says that, it means they finished it, right? At least that's my interpretation. Maybe I'm wrong. And then I finally reached out to someone that knows the person that she was able to link me to, and I asked them, what was her deal? Why was she, why would she not want me to not mention her? Like, well, apparently she was trying to swindle this person to stay with her because she she was making up a lie. I'm not gonna say it. I can't do it. But that's how far back her scheming and scamming goes, is 20 years, because she herself told me that was 20 years ago. The other person didn't tell me that. I didn't even live here 20 years ago. So I would have never linked them together at all. So my whole purpose in making this video is to let the community know my side of the story. There was a huge mental impact done to me, and the very real emotions were involved. I'm over it now. I, just remind myself who I am. And I'm not that person. I'm not the person that's going to be played with, scammed. But I'm also not the person that's going to harbor ill will and create, spin a narrative in my favor. If I do something wrong, I'm going to let people know. I'm going to be the first one to let people know, like, hey, I shipped your package late or something, or you know what, I thought I shipped it, I didn't ship it. I guess that's the worst thing I could do is accidentally skip somebody's shipment. But yeah, I know a lot of people in the community don't know me. The people who know me on a personal level know that I'm not going to talk about the type of person that I am. I'm going to let my actions speak for me. So I hope people in the community have some relief by knowing that, you're not alone. This happened to several of us. She was being very mentally manipulating. And if you haven't come out, or you're barely finding out about this, it's not too late. Definitely reach out to the Houston Police Department. The Financial Crimes Division, I believe, is the one. It's where Detective Awesome is. But thank you for your time. And if you have any questions or comments, definitely leave them in the comments, and I will try to answer them to the best of my ability.